The first part I designed was the trigger, since I knew it would be pretty simple. It's made of a hinge, a spring, and a key switch for a nice click. I only iterated on the design once, making the lever longer. This gray one is my final print. The slide ended up being the most difficult part to get right. This is my second design for the slide, but it kind of gets stuck on the way back because of the way I've angled it, and it also doesn't click very much, especially when you do it fast. So I think I need to improve it. I made several failed attempts to 3D print plastic springs into the part, but I ended up finding a key switch design that clicked well enough. Some of my prototypes broke, so I decided to fill the plastic parts with epoxy for strength. Finding a spring that wasn't too strong or too weak took months, and the plastic rail was too high friction and flexible. I switched to a steel rod and linear bearing, and it worked a lot better. The magazine lock looks really intricate because it has to be compact, but it's really just a single hinge with a torsion spring. These little teeth catch in the magazine. The final design used a stronger spring and some screws for the axle. I painted the primers white, but I forgot to record it. The magazine had a few failed prints, but I got it eventually. Most of the rounds in the magazine are fake, only the backs are visible. I put some steel balls inside the magazine for weight. The two halves warped as they were printing, and some of the screw holes didn't line up anymore, but with some force I was able to make it work. I got the magazine window laser cut out of acrylic at a local shop. I glued on some cellophane to give it an iridescent sheen. My first attempt ended up kind of wrinkly, although it's hard to see in the video. For my second try, I used epoxy instead of spray glue. I also put a flat surface and a lot of weight on it to try to keep it smooth. I didn't get a chance to show it, but the magazine has a spring-loaded follower and can hold a few real rounds. The shell had to be printed in 4 parts to fit in my printer. Here I am making sure all the mechanisms fit in their place properly. botched the design and didn't leave enough room to insert the magazine, so I had to file down the mag well a bit. This took a lot of work, but it was the best way I could think of to paint a halftone pattern. Getting the dots off was harder than getting them on. The results are quite nice, though. The final step is a layer of clear coat. For a transparent stock, I knew I needed to cast it into epoxy. I started with a half-scale test. For coloring, I used some dye that came bundled with the epoxy. The test was a success. I didn't like the color, but that's easy to change. Time for the full-size stock. I wanted a very smooth finish, so I coated the sanded prints in epoxy before making the mold. For the new color, I mixed orange, red, and black alcohol inks into the epoxy. You can see it's a much nicer honey color already. The weight of the mold bent my flat surface, and I had some spillage problems. It was hard to get the epoxy to perfectly fill up the mold. This non-flat top would soon come back to haunt me. I glued the two halves together with epoxy, but because the surfaces weren't flat, it drained out and left lots of air bubbles. I kept pouring more in, and it kept draining out. I ended up making a mess and ruining the other surfaces with blobs of epoxy. I ended up resanding the whole thing. And painting on yet another layer of epoxy. It ended up working out though, and I glued in the nuts and bolts that would connect it to the rest of the gun. The foregrip is supposed to be matte plastic, so I didn't do any finishing on it. For a gunmetal look on the iron sights, I used rub and buff on the edges. It's pretty subtle, but it looks nice. I paid to have the antenna and mandibles printed in flexible plastic. I used more rub and buff for the barrel. Assembly went without a hitch. Most parts had already been test assembled. My poor steel balls rusted from the humidity. I should have used more glue. One of the steel balls came loose right after I finished the rest of assembly, and now the gun rattles a little bit. have to do it with a straight face.
Okay, do it again, do it again.
I have to stop laughing.
Okay. Lock in.